Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast, the number one source for news, analysis, and discussion on the Detroit Red Wings, the NHL, and all things hockey. Here are your hosts, Ryan Hanna, Brad Crisco, and Evan Lopsinger.
Did not take long in that Senators game to understand why Ottawa's where they are in the standings. Because they outplayed Detroit heavily in that first period. That was actually not a good first period for Detroit. It was 3-0 Red Wings after 20, and I was like, that all tracks.
The cascade effect was fascinating to watch because I think we all agreed that, like you just said, the Red Wings were bad that period and we're up 3-0. And you look at Ottawa's goaltending and you go, yeah, that's been a problem all year, and it's really bad tonight. Next day, Jacob Markstrom goes, you ain't seen nothing yet.
My God, what was it? 9 goals allowed on 1.4 goals expected?
Something pretty close to that, yeah. It was 7 point something goals saved below expected.
I want to know how many instances there are of it only taking 8 shots for a team to get 1.4 expected goals, like depending on the quality. Like, that is unbelievable.
They started keeping track of this stat loosely in 2007, and this is the single worst game by a goaltender in that span.
But then Sheldon Keefe pulled the Derek Lalonde, which was the first thing he mentioned in the post-game interview. You know, he thought that was their best game all season in terms of generating offensive chances. And even though he was technically correct, kind of can't say it.
Just got embarrassed. Didn't someone throw a PK Subban jersey on the ice? And PK was like calling the game or something like that? Yeah, tough night in New Jersey. And then your coach says, well, actually, we had a good offensive night. You lost 9-0 and it's raining jerseys. Maybe just don't say that.
You want to know the best part about that? It wasn't in New Jersey. It was on Long Island.
Oh my
They threw
God.
PK Subban Devils jersey on the road on the ice.
That's tough. That's really tough.
Like, you almost want to think, wow, what a dweeb. Like, who does that? Throws a jersey on the road. And then you look at that score and you're like, okay, you know what?
It was actually PK Subban.
Oh, happy it's not us. And the Red Wings beat the Senators despite being outplayed. So, unexpectedly based on how they played. A happy episode. Folks, welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Here to talk to you about all things Detroit Red Wings hockey, the world of the NHL, and lots more. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Hanna.
I'm Brad Crisco.
And I'm Evan.
On this episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast, we are going to be recapping the Detroit Red Wings versus Ottawa Senators game that happened on Monday and takeaways from that entire game, including how the new lines fared and how the Red Wings pulled out the win. We're going to be talking about the news of Nate Danielson going down and John Leonard staying up, new line combinations in practice, and more. And then we're getting into trade season, so we are going to talk about the early rumblings of what is, hovering around the Red Wings and around the league and what might be a fit. So 'tis the season. News from Grand Rapids as Shai Buium returns to the ice. Trailmax is named to Team Latvia for the Olympics, and NHL news before overtime. Very quickly, 2 things. Winged Wheel Podcast night with the Grand Rapids Griffins is fast approaching. Just talked to the team. We are down to our last 25 tickets with the autographed puck, the co-branded Winged Wheel Podcast Grand Rapids Griffins puck signed by a mystery Griffins player. The ticket also gets you access to the pregame live recording of the Winged Wheel Podcast featuring head coach Dan Watson and other special guests, including Griffins players, and obviously tickets to the Griffins game that night. It is a fantastic time. We love this event every single year. So griffinshockey.com/WWP. And very quickly, if you want to support the show and allow us to do things like host Winged Wheel Podcast nights at the LCA with the Detroit Red Wings and at Van Andel Arena with the Grand Rapids Griffins, patreon.com/Winged Wheel Podcast. Our patrons allow us to do all of that and lots more. You get access to benefits like our bonus overtime episodes, the Patreon exclusive Discord, and you're automatically entered into all of our giveaways. We give away 2 tickets to every Detroit Red Wings home game going directly to our Patreon supporters. So again, patreon.com/Winged Wheel Podcast. Evan, you always say win the Atlantic Division games, or you've been saying that this year at least, that if you're going to suck, at least it's not against the Atlantic. And the Red Wings kind of listened. They won. They didn't play particularly well. They looked kind of disjointed with the new lines and everything and whatever they've been dealing with, but they still pulled out that win. So all in all, 2 points are 2 points. you count those W's and you move on from it and you try to improve from it. But they capitalized on Ottawa's deficiencies that night.
Can only beat the team in front of you, right? Like the Red Wings did not have a good night. That would maybe be the worst performance in the defensive zone I've seen all year from Detroit. Just completely disorganized, guys selling out everywhere. But Ottawa has bad goaltending. And when the other team has a bad goaltender, you try to get some pucks on net. They had some great looks too. Don't get me wrong, but they finished when they needed to.
It stays in.
They completed their opportunities when they needed to. and they ended up winning the game. So, is every win going to be in a dominant fashion? No, probably not. They were on the road against an Atlantic Division team. They got 2 points, and they helped separate themselves even more so than they are from Ottawa. So lots of concerns to take away, but 2 points is 2 points. And I'm sure the Red Wings are more than thrilled to just get out of Ottawa.
John Gibson, MVP of that game. Like Detroit outshot by nearly double it was. It was, 37-21, so not too far off. And even though the Senators got 3 on the board, I thought John Gibson was excellent all night. And it's good to see, because when the Red Wings were rolling and playing extremely well in December, there were games where you could have pointed to him and said, yeah, he played well and he did what he needed to do, but he faced like 19 shots or whatever it was. And the question has been, can John Gibson continue playing this well when the Red Wings aren't playing that well in front of him? And I think by and large he has been, and against Ottawa especially, he was their MVP. And so that was huge for them. It required Ottawa to be particularly bad, obviously, especially with their goaltending, but still. And then offensively, they capitalized, right? Like Andrew Copp opening up scoring, continuing his, massive turnaround in his game compared to the first 2 months of the season or so. Makes another great read. He's done this a few times recently. Makes a great read, forces a turnover along the left side board, breaks down and, goes up the ice and finishes on the breakaway. Detroit's up 1-0. Dylan Larkin on the power play off a phenomenal, just like, it's a very simple pass, but go back and watch JVR in front. Like that's his office right there. Makes his read, has the puck, does not panic, sees the opportunity with Dylan Larkin with just the tap in. Deft little touch to give it to him, and Larkin has one of his easiest goals of the season for his 22nd of the year. And then to close out the third, it was 17 seconds left, JVR with a turnaround shot in front. And Van Riemsdyk continues to be one of the best value signings for the Red Wings depth in a long, long time. Detroit's up 3-0. And the way I described it, you think that they were outplaying Ottawa, but those moments were pretty much the gist of it. Other than that, it was Ottawa's period. And outshot 17-9 in the first, Detroit was.
Opportunistic would be the positive word to describe that period, because I can't use the word good, but they were opportunistic and efficient.
Yeah. And the reviews went Detroit's way that night too. There was a offside goal that was called back, and I know...
Speaking of which, because I got tagged in a lot, I still hate it. I know it benefited Detroit. It's still crap.
And then at the end of the game, there was a goaltender interference call that negated a goal. So the reviews did go Detroit's way. I do think they were both objectively the right call. And, the Red Wings won the challenge with the offside goal, and the referees actually waved the goal off late in the game for the goaltender interference, which Sens fans weren't happy about, but we were on the other side of that recently.
That's your penance for employing Brady Tkachuk. He wasn't even directly involved, but
just he was around.
He was close enough.
So the second period comes along, and then Ottawa actually gets within a goal. It was goals from Giroux and Cousins, and then Lucas Raymond makes it 4-2 before the end of the second. Absolutely needed that goal.
Well, if you shoot like that all the time, you wouldn't need to worry about that. That was an absolute rocket.
It was sick. It was like a little drag in, reset, pull it around the defender, and then just rips it. Like, that's the shot he's always had, and he makes a move in tight. Like, that was a sweet goal.
I was actually mad after he scored, because I was like, why don't you use this all the time? If you're in the home plate area with a shot and a release like that, that's a 30-40 goal scorers type shot. Like,
which we think he can be consistently.
He should be letting that thing go all the time.
So Detroit ends the period up 2, and that was important because, Ottawa wasn't just outplaying them still. They were gaining momentum at that point. And then in the third period, Ottawa outshot Detroit 10-3. Is that 2 straight third periods with 3 shots? Brady Tkachuk brings them within 1, and then Michael Rasmussen on a shorthanded goal with, under 8 minutes left to play, just over 7 minutes left to play. Very similar to another time recently where he went down and he looked off Dylan Larkin on the other side on a 2-on-1, and you're like, oh, and then he just completely missed, I think it was. But this time, makes no mistake and buries a shorthanded goal. It was his first shorthanded goal in 70-something games for the Red Wings. And that's like that, when Ken said that on the broadcast, I was like, oh, yeah, it has been a while since we've heard shorthanded goal. And that's how the game finished 5-3. Obviously, the waved off goal for goaltender interference never came through. So Detroit hangs on. John Gibson hangs on, and the Red Wings get the win against the Senators. You can't keep playing like that against them. You can't keep playing like that, period. But to escape with 2 points in this stretch of poor play is a big win for the Red Wings.
Historically, when the Red Wings have held down a playoff spot, they have found ways to lose games like this, and they have found ways to lose games they should win. So if every once in a while we're getting a game they shouldn't win that they do, it feels like a nice turn. I will say the growing trend around the team is concerning. Yeah, it's nice to get a W, but when you combine this with the previous few games, not inspiring confidence. Feels like January might be the new December.
Don't put that evil on us.
The Olympic break's coming up, and the Red Wings might get a much-needed reset. You've been doing a lot of complaining about how condensed the schedule is. If this somehow ends up playing in our favor,
we'll take it.
I just saw Germany's Olympic roster, and Moritz Seider is going to be playing 60 minutes a game. So if you think he's coming back rested, you're absolutely incorrect.
No, he's going to be coming back rested because, unironically, they're going to be one of the first teams that are relevant in that tournament.
They'll be 3 and done, and he'll be out of there already back in Michigan.
Yeah, Dylan Larkin's still playing a quarterfinal game. He's on a beach in Cancun.
No, what they just added their new German ringer, Adam Foxen.
That's right.
Yeah, they found him in Manhattan.
Yeah.
But no, I don't disagree with you. Like, you're not going to sit here and complain about getting 2 points, but at the same time, like you watch, Todd McClellan has, and we'll get into what he did specifically, but he's continued to jumble the lines even after that game. And like, that was not a great performance. Some of that you can chalk up to the fact that the team has brand new lines and things weren't working before, and you have to get used to those lines. But at the same time, you've seen how this team can play like as of 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. So I'm not so concerned where I'm like, yeah, this is absolutely going to be a terrible month for the Red Wings. Like, we've seen them turn it around, not on a dime, but on like in short little spurts this year. Like it's not such a slow turnaround in terms of bad play to poor play and vice versa, which is a blessing and a curse. But in previous years, when the Red Wings just largely sucked, their good play was short-lived and it took forever to get there. And we've seen multiple times this year, like, the almost the rubber banding of like, last week you were terrible and this week you're doing fundamental things way better. Why weren't you just doing, much like Evan said with Lucas Raymond and his shot, why weren't you just doing that the whole time? But, you could also use that to say, I don't think it's reasonable to count on them having a bad entire month of January. I might just be the optimist of the three of us, but I've seen enough this season to know that they can make this so it isn't long-lived. And to that end, they have 2 games coming up. They have Vancouver at home, which every game is an important game at this time of year.
That's a Pettersson showcase game.
That's right.
Which one?
All of them.
Has Evan just, grown to love all
No.
the Petterssons, or has he just grown tired of remembering which one is which?
Yes.
Yeah. And then even more importantly, Saturday on the road in Montreal. And it's the same story in the standings. Like, everyone around Detroit is winning. Buffalo won 10 straight. They lost one, and then they won their next one after that. Did you know that if Buffalo wins their games in hand, they pass the Red Wings if they win all of them in regulation?
Well, they're a wagon of a team, so that makes a lot of sense.
And that's like, I'm not saying they're going to. It's 3 games, and are they going to win all 3 straight in regulation? It's unlikely, although, they just won 10 straight games. But it just goes to show Buffalo was the laughing stock of the East, like, a month and a half ago. And they are now keeping pace. So every single game not just within the Atlantic, but within the Eastern Conference is crucial at this point for Detroit to hold their position. And against Montreal, who is right behind them, Montreal has games in hand and can pass Detroit already. They are only 2 points back with 2 games in hand. That's going to be a big one to keep them back.
Yeah, if they beat Montreal in regulation, that completely negates the 2 games in hand for Montreal, because then it's all of a sudden a 4-point lead. So it's a big, big, big game. My favorite stat about Buffalo, did you see the one that was floating around a day or 2 ago? Ever since the main characters on Heated Rivalry made fun of them, they're 10-1.
That's all it took.
That's all it took. One joke on a TV show, and they are off to the moon.
Do you remember Buffalo had one other small win streak this season? Do you remember what that was after? I made some...
Was it the palm tree joke?
That was last year, wasn't it?
Was it last year?
Yeah, it was a joke I made
circle.
at their expense on Twitter for it was just a random, they caught a stray for no reason. They hadn't done anything, and then they won it on a heater after that.
They win out of spite.
They do win out of spite. Honestly,
I respect it.
I do.
Everyone's been saying forever that Buffalo's not as bad as they appear. It's just they have loser stink.
Yes, Buffalo is the shining example of you can add all the good players you want, but if you don't know how to win, you're going to just stink and suck. Toronto is actually the shining example, but we don't use them as a lesson. We use them as something to point and laugh at.
Yes.
They're the cautionary tale.
So that's what's upcoming for the Red Wings, and let's get into the lineup changes that Todd McLellan made. I think every time Max lists the line, it's really funny because he lists the DeBrincat Copp Kane line first, and he's not wrong. That's Detroit's best line right now. It has been for a long time. So DeBrincat Copp Kane stays together. Finney, Larkin, Casper. So Finney, a temporary demotion to the 4th line previous game. Danielson was the odd man out previous game, and we'll mention in a second he got sent down to Grand Rapids. But Finney, Larkin, Casper, DeBrincat Copp Kane, Van Riemsdyk, Comfer, Raymond, Leonard, Rasmussen, Appleton, with Soderblom as the extra, and then the usual defensive pairings. And that third pair, oh man, did they look rough against Ottawa. So more tinkering as they try to find something. And I think I always go back to one thing that McLellan says about forward lines is sometimes it's not even just about fit. Things just get stale for guys. And not like they get bored, but it could mean teams know how to game plan against him. It could mean that the chemistry was short-lived and not sustainable, whatever it is. But that's kind of what it looks like in Detroit for everyone except that DeBrincat Copp Kane line.
I try to not get too obsessive over the lines for this exact reason, where they change them for a game and then they're changed again. And like you said, you never know what's going to stick. You never know when it's going to get stale. I understand the logic with this configuration. I like having 2 young guys with the captain in the sense of, all right, leader, lead. And then for the young kids, it's a message. You got to keep up with him. The way JVR is playing, I do not hate him opposite Lucas Raymond right now.
Yeah.
And then the 4th line is, I'm not calling them the extras is too harsh, but that could be an effective 4th line.
Leonard, Rasmussen with how he's playing in Appleton, I quite like that 4th line for the Red Wings.
If they're all sort of on their game that at that time, then that's a 4th line that's very difficult to play against. Some big bodies, endless motors on those guys. That could get frustrating. But the big caveat is they need to be on their game.
I think it should be frustrating.
I think the big advantage the Red Wings could have with this lineup is they can maybe start winning the matchup battle, but that is asking a lot of Casper and Finney because they're playing with Larkin, so they're going to get some tougher matchups. If they can keep their head above water, that should really free up the 3rd and the 4th lines to get some favorable matchups.
I agree. The first line, or the Larkin line, we'll call it right now, that's the big question mark.
If they're getting caved, then this can't last for long.
They have the foot speed where they shouldn't be getting caved, and they have Dylan Larkin at center, so they shouldn't be getting caved. I'm willing to write off the Sidney Crosby games as an aberration of the guys were exhausted at the same time they went against one of the best players of all time who might be on some people's Mount Rushmore. Sure. But they have enough there in terms of tools and actual talent to not get caved. Max wrote in his, 5 questions that are going to face the Red Wings to determine how their second half goes article on the Athletic Detroit. I'll link it in the description. But one of them, and for me, it's the biggest one, is can Marco Kasper get going? We've been talking about it all year, and especially recently as this has moved out of sophomore slump territory into, no, this is something beyond that, and it has to be corrected. Otherwise, it has bigger implications. But if Marco Kasper gets going, then that is another top 6 player. Last year, that was a second-line center. This year, it could be a top 6 winger or a great third-line center. But if he gets going and plays the way that he demonstrated he could play last season, then this whole lineup thing is way less of a question. You're not shuffling everyone up and down. You're maybe moving 1 or 2 guys because you have so many players anchored in their spots, and Kasper is like just one more there that would just change the calculus for the forwards.
This line really is the catalyst to keeping the rest of the lines together, because if this one doesn't work, you have to get Larkin with different line mates and keep him going. So I think it really does come down to that line, and Marco Kasper. I mean, we keep saying he needs to find his game. He needs to find his game. Like, we're halfway through the season. He's running out of time to find his game. But, like we said, mixing up the lines now is great, because if we find new chemistry, if this is going to be a playoff team, that's just another card you can have when the matchups change or you need to match up accordingly against whoever their opponent may be.
So all eyes on them. I don't even know if this will hold in terms of the line. So we'll see if this is just like a temporary reset until maybe someone's carrying an injury and they feel healthy enough, and then the first line reconvenes or something, or we'll see how it goes. Now, the big news was Nate Danielson, and we talked about it last episode that we thought this might be coming, but Nate Danielson was indeed sent down to Grand Rapids. It seems that Steve Yzerman and Todd McClellan thought the same thing of, wasn't exactly doing a ton in Detroit. Not that everything was his fault, but he was kind of riding the brakes, was getting, 11-ish minutes a night. And at that point, it's not an Axel Sandin-Pellikka situation where there's no one else to play the position. There's other guys for those spots. Send him down to Grand Rapids, where you just took John Leonard away from them again. So Nate Danielson is signed down to the AHL. That's the big topic at hand in Hockeytown. And I know you mentioned last episode, Brad, that you would expect it would be for the season, or at least that's what you would hope it would be. I think that's the reasonable expectation. I don't know that I guarantee that. Injuries would change everything, of course, but no injuries aside, it's the most probable outcome, I guess is what I would call it.
It has to be prolonged. I always use Dennis Cholowski as the example of how yo-yoing can ruin development. I'm at the point with Danielson, I don't really care where he is. Just give him that consistency and give him a directive. In Detroit, with the skill level, the pace of the NHL, his directive basically was survive.
Yeah.
Well, now he's back in Grand Rapids. Directive's got to be thrive. He's got to start putting points on the board. He's got to find his confidence. He's got to find his offense. We know what he can do, but he's never really had that season at basically any level where he's just dominated offensively. And if he has any dreams of being a top 6 center in the NHL, he's got to show that he can be a 50-point scorer in the NHL, which means he's probably got to be at least a point per game player in the AHL. Might it happen right away? No, he's going to reacclimate and all that stuff. But that's why I want to see an extended run, because he can get to that point of consistency.
There have been a lot of conversations about the Grand Rapids Griffins. I think there was a Vancouver writer or media person who noticed, they're like, this isn't at all relevant to the Canucks, but what the hell? Look at Grand Rapids. Like, their record's insane right now. Like, everyone's noticing. And there's been a lot of conversations of how much is this just like such an exceptional performance from an AHL team versus like they have a lot of, fringy to bona fide NHL talent on that team. And just because of the makeup of the Red Wings roster means, at least 2 NHL level defensemen are playing there. And the boring answer is it's a combination of both. And all that aside, that's actually a great place for Nate Danielson and players like him to be, because you're not sending him down to the AHL to go play in a team that's struggling with their own construct, with their own, winning ways, with their own maturity or whatever it might be. Like, it's a pseudo, reserve NHL team with all of the maturity and the talent and the experience you have down there. So I agree with you. I think it's a good thing at this point. Would I have hoped for this? No, absolutely not. We would have hoped for a last season Marco Kasper kind of performance, but that's just not how it goes 9 times out of 10.
And I think that's why the Red Wings are so comfortable with sending Nate Danielson back to GR, is because he's going back to a great organization with great leadership, great coaching, and it's a familiar place for him. Like, there's probably teams that hold prospects on their NHL roster because, as much as they say they've got a great relationship with their affiliate teams in the AHL, might not be the best run organization. They might be having a bad season there. It's like, let's just keep them here, keep them having NHL reps. I know they're only going to play 12 or so minutes a game, but it's better than the dumpster fire that we've got in the AHL. But with Grand Rapids, they're having a historic season. Nate Danielson is going to be fine.
And go watch him Saturday, January 17th.
He just wanted to sign those last 25 pucks.
He just wanted to sign those last 25 pucks. I should message them to make sure he gets... Oh, he would have, though. Yeah, depending on when the pucks were signed.
That's true.
Yeah, I got to figure it out. Actually, no, we'll leave it as a surprise. If you get a Nate Danielson puck, let us know. griffinshockey.com/WWP. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we're back, more on the Red Wings and the world of the NHL. Back after this. If you're listening to this, you've definitely watched hockey and probably have played it at some point too. And in hockey, when something's off, you usually feel it before you can fully explain it, right? Your timing's a bit weird, your confidence isn't quite there, you start overthinking things instead of just reacting and playing the game. Hair loss can be the same way. It's gradual, it's subtle, and once you notice it, it's hard not to. That's where HIMS comes in. HIMS provides access to licensed medical providers and personalized care for hair loss through a convenient online process that fits your schedule. Instead of guessing what might work or bouncing between options, you get a clear plan based on real treatments. Through HIMS, you can get access to doctor-trusted ingredients that can help stop further hair loss and regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months if you're prescribed. Everything's handled online, and the treatment plan is built around your goals, not some generic setup like a dump and chase. No hidden fees, no surprise costs, just personalized care that helps you get back to feeling comfortable and confident, like you're focused on the next shift instead of worrying about what's going on in the background. For simple online access to personalized and affordable care for hair loss, ED, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/wingedwheel. That's hims.com/wingedwheel for your free online visit. hims.com/wingedwheel. Featured products include compounded drug products, which the FDA does not approve or verify for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. See website for full details, restrictions, and important safety information. Individual results may vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil and finasteride. Welcome back. It's Brad's favorite time of year, trade rumor season, where the answer to everything is if the price is right and you don't take on any short-term rentals for premiums. But it's the NHL, and the Red Wings are in a way different position this year, where they are actually in a playoff spot in the month of January, and like on merit. It's a wild year in the East where, the Red Wings could be out of a playoff spot in a week and a half maybe, but still, they were leading the conference as of like a few days ago. And names are starting to pop up, and as they do, you're going to see a lot of teams affiliated with those names, like, you see Kiefer Sherwood, you see Rasmus Andersson, you see Andrew Mangiapane, and players like that who aren't like dead set on one team. There are always going to be rumors linking teams that would just make sense. It doesn't necessarily mean that those teams are actually linked to those players. So anytime we have, actual verifiable information, and we don't report on things until we know things like triple confirmed, take everything with a grain of salt. Like, we'll tell you if we think we know for sure, but by and large, there's also a lot of just guesswork of like, this would be where this guy would fit based on the assets this team has, the gaps in their lineup, that kind of thing. And Steve Yzerman being a vault is both a blessing and a curse for, media, national media especially, because you get nothing out of him, maybe the other side of the negotiation, but it also means if there's nothing coming out, a lot of people tend to fill in the blanks. So everything with a big grain of salt. Nevertheless, I've seen the Red Wings linked to all 3 of those guys that I just mentioned, 2 of them being wingers, one right shot winger in terms of Kiefer Sherwood, one left shot winger in terms of Andrew Mangiapane. What side of the wing they play on is neither here nor there for the sake of this conversation. And a right shot defenseman. We're right back at it with Rasmus Andersson in Calgary. So why don't we start with that one? Rasmus Andersson, because every time we've talked about him in the past, the kind of consensus has been, doesn't really make sense for Detroit. Do you still think so?
Mostly. Again, Big right shot defenseman. Always has value. Very useful for the Red Wings. Gonna cost a ton to get there. You're gonna have to get him an extension. And that's probably not going to be a cheap extension. So if I'm the Red Wings and I'm going to commit a ton to the salary cap and I'm going to give up a ton of premium assets, right D might be the least of their problems.
Okay, counter though. We have said Axel Sandin-Pellikka doesn't exactly thrive on his own this season. They've had to manage his shifts a lot. They've had to kind of deploy him in ways that are favorable to him. And this isn't a slight on him. He's just, we mentioned last episode, it's his frame, it's his newness. The NHL basically jumped right into the NHL unexpectedly. And especially come playoff time, that's only going to be amplified, right? And so if you can bring in Rasmus Andersson, extend him, yeah, he'll be 30 at the end of this coming October. But if you get him on a reasonable term and you extend him with this rising cap, the Red Wings already have cap space. Okay, you have Rasmus Andersson. He might be a bit expensive, but you have him for at least the next few years where you can count on him in that second pair role on the right side, and it shelters Axel Sandin-Pellikka. And when ASP passes him on merit, oh no, you have a really great third pair right shot defenseman, something that the Red Wings don't even have a halfway decent one right now.
A third pair defenseman for $10 million.
Is he going to cost $10 million?
He's going to get close to that.
You think so?
UFA, I bet you he gets close to that.
I don't know.
What's his floor for? He's not getting less than 8.5. There's no chance he gets less than 8.5. And I think that would be a bargain based on what the market's likely to yield. But also, you said two words at the beginning of that kind of made my argument against it when you were talking about the right side and all that. You said this season. That is not at the top of my priority list when I'm making a trade like this.
It's at the top of my priority list when I'm making any trade this year. I want to get in the playoffs.
I want to get in the playoffs, but again, anything outside of a first-round pick and a premium prospect are not sacred at this point. If you get a rental for a second-round pick or a B-level prospect to get in the playoffs, well worth it. Rasmus Andersson's costing you a first-round pick plus. You can fill in whatever you think the plus is, but it's going to be a big return. Again, with an extension, because you're out of your mind if you're giving that up for any rental, unless his name rhymes with Thick David.
Excuse me. Who is David? Huh?
Therapist. Thick David can't hurt you. That's got to be the end of the show. I don't just mean this episode. I mean, we'll wrap it up, sell the equipment.
Thick David.
Hey, if you're giving up premiums.
I meant to do the rest of the show, Brad.
Don't worry, I got a worse joke coming up.
That's the reddest I've ever seen Evan. Thick David.
That was the rhyme you came up with?
Yep. It was the first one that came in my head, and I was like, I'm going to run with it. I'm going to run with it.
God bless you. You know, I really hate everything about you, but sometimes you come through.
Yeah, it was one of those ones I'm like, you have the immediate thought of, I should come up with a different one, but it's already there, and I don't want to waste time.
Then you start to panic.
Yeah, we've all been there.
But so anyways, getting back to the point of with that, if you're giving up all those assets for, call it 8.5 years of Rasmus Andersson, totally justifiable. But then the circumstances of this year don't really matter to me. That's the secondary benefit. The primary benefit is the long term. So I'm not going to pull the trigger on a deal like that just because he would be beneficial ahead of Sandin-Pellikka this year. Because when we're looking long term, if Sandin-Pellikka doesn't pass him on the depth chart within 3 or 4 years, we got a lot bigger problems than just his contract. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
you would love to mitigate those issues.
But then if it does go according to plan, now you got to pay Sandin-Pellikka $10 million and you got a bottom pair defenseman making $9 million, and all of a sudden you're almost $30 million on the right side of your defense.
Yeah, but those are kind of worst case scenarios though, Brad. Like, that's a great problem. If you have to pay Sandin-Pellikka $10 million, that is a phenomenal problem.
No, but the whole point is it's where should the Red Wings be investing their biggest assets? And again, if you look at their wingers right now, there's a lot to be desired there. Centers until Casper Danielson makes us confident, there's a lot to be desired there. Left side of the defense after Edvinsson is hopes and dreams. Like,
I feel like you can get a 30-point defenseman who can play 17, 18 minutes a night for like half the cost.
You could. Can the Red Wings, though? Other teams
Maybe.
have. The Red Wings, they sometimes have kind of succeeded in it and sometimes kind of not.
And if Rasmus Andersson shot left, I would have all the time in the day for this conversation.
Yeah, that's kind of where
the
I'm
problem
at,
is
too.
like I've said it before. I don't know how much of the salary cap the Red Wings want to tie up in defensemen. If ASP pops off, like you guys said, like that's another big contract. They got to pay Edvinsson. That's definitely going to be a big contract. I don't know. If he was left-handed, I would definitely put a lot more credence into this player, this conversation. But I just feel like right D is not the biggest issue, and I feel like you could probably find someone who's 80% Rasmus Andersson for a half of the cost.
Where?
I don't know, Ryan.
They can't.
I'm not an NHL GM.
There's, and you know what? We're worse off for it.
David.
Max contract. Oh God. I'm honest. I can't. Thick David is so big. He's taking up all the space in my brain. I can't even form a thought right now. Okay, what you're saying is right, and I think I would have, ran with that the last 9.5 years of doing this show. But the Red Wings have 12, 13 million in cap space right now, and I'm not even doing the math on what they've accrued. Next year, that's going to rise rapidly. The year after that, it's going to rise rapidly. Like the cap is going up such an astronomical amount. And we're talking about, then you'll have to pay ASP. I don't know that we're going to have to pay ASP this much. It's too early to tell. I think the range of outcomes...
And Edvinsson.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big one.
But I'm on board with doing this if it's a left-handed defenseman. If they have to pay left-handed Rasmus Andersson $9 million, I think I'm on board, obviously, if the price is right, because I think that's a bigger need.
Gun to your head right now, which other dimension player would you prefer on your team? Left-handed Rasmus Andersson or Thick David?
Oh, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Why are you even asking?
Pass. Thick David.
Thick David would make Thanos look like the opening scene. Cannon fodder in a Marvel movie.
It's been a good run. We almost made it to 11 years at the podcast.
Almost, yeah.
This is our demise.
We always knew Brad would be the one to ruin everything, but
That's true.
I wasn't expecting a blaze of glory like this. Where I actually stopped short is the bidding war on Rasmus Andersson. I don't care about contract. I really don't. I think the number for Edvinsson is going to be in like an 8.5 to maybe 9.5 range give or take. Sandin-Pellikka, he's so far out and his range of outcomes is so wide, I don't care. It's the trade acquisition cost for Rasmus Andersson. And do you believe that he's that good, that he's worth a first-round pick and one of your really good prospects, which is what Calgary is going to probably get from someone else?
If we're talking like a first and Carter Bear, no, I'm not there on Rasmus Andersson. I like the player, but given the age, the likely contract, the acquisition cost, like just cumulatively, it strikes me as a bad idea. Now, that being said, I'm still a big believer in if the Red Wings cannot lure anybody else to this team and he's the only option, well, I'd rather get him than nothing. But even then, the acquisition cost, I think you're better off with the pick and Carter Bear long term.
Would you do the pick and like a Bachelnikov?
No.
I probably would.
Would you do the pick and like someone in the Mazer tier?
Yes, 100%.
I think the things are getting even more sparse, I think, with the cap going up.
Extension.
Yeah, with extension.
I'm not doing any of this as a rental. And obviously, there's the whole caveat over all this based on reports. I haven't seen anything updated, so we're going back a couple months. But the places Rasmus Andersson was willing to sign was a very, very short list, and Detroit was never reported on those lists.
I mean, things can change, though.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I haven't seen an update in a month or two, but the last that it was reported, it was a very small list. I think it might have just been Vegas.
Yeah, who among us?
Honestly.
Get in line, pal.
At the time. But
Kiefer Sherwood out of Vancouver.
Pending UFA, career year, almost 30, insanely high shooting percentage, hard pass.
17 goals, 5 assists, 22 points in 42 games.
This is every warning light on the dash that we have seen a million times before. Like, good player. I'm not saying bad player, but I am saying he is not 30 goal pace good. He is not a 30 goal scorer. We see these, I don't want to call him a flash in the pan because that's unfair to him. He's better than that. But just everything is going right for him this year. And again, pending UFA, age, shooting percentage. Not a fan. I like the player, love the player. But given the year he's having, the acquisition cost to get him, I have a hard time seeing him replicating those numbers in Detroit. I have a hard time seeing him replicating those numbers next week.
I think he'd help, but yeah, it just screams like another guy where it's going to be a team whose first round picks are worth way less than Detroit's, and they're going to mortgage because they're like, him in our bottom six will make the biggest difference on this team.
He makes their third line 15% better, which for that team is significant. Like if that's a Dallas, a Colorado, a Tampa Bay, makes all the sense in the world. That jumps Detroit maybe from the 8th seed to the 7th seed, and they're still cannon fodder in the first round. You know what I mean? And
yeah. Now, what do you think about a guy like Mangiapane, who's mentioned, who's, I mean, not doing anything of note? It's
hey,
5 goals,
wake
6
up.
assists.
New Daniel Sprong just dropped. They could be brothers like Mario and Luigi.
3.6 million for the next couple seasons, and you'd be doing Edmonton a favor there. Like you're not.
Yeah, he's fine. He's good depth scoring, but again, he's the same type of player, not necessarily stylistically, but in terms of effect, as Daniel Sprong was. He scores. He'll put points on the board, but he's unbelievably one-dimensional that way and provides almost nothing else. Like their defense is not good. The pace is not good. The physicality is not good.
I don't hate the idea of having him. It's not, in my mind, a good use of the money. I'd want Edmonton to retain, which they won't do. Maybe they'll sweeten it, but you don't really care about anything in their system. You don't hate the dart, but this iteration of the Red Wings, do you need the dart? The numbers this year don't show it.
Yeah, who's he replacing? Not that the Red Wings' bottom six is a murderer's row of scorers, but who's he replacing?
I could see him fighting for the same spots that like Soderblom and Leonard are fighting for every night.
He's not replacing Appleton. He's not replacing JVR. If we're talking about bottom six wingers right now, he's not replacing Lucas Raymond.
Or Leonard, honestly, for that matter. Like
that, there you start having the conversation, but Leonard's making league minimum and he's making that. Like,
yeah,
I'd rather just try Leonard at that point.
I want to look at Minchikov again. Like, I know that conversation died down. I don't know exactly how things have progressed.
And I'm free falling now too, so that could.
Like, I still think that one is one worth exploring, especially if they do start to sell. Like, it really depends on what your pro scouting and what your feel is on the guy and what his game can be. But Pavel Minchikov, like, it's the left shot. He's young. He's a dart at the dartboard. He's an RFA at the end of the season, sure, but at the same time, he's not done a ton to earn a lot of money. If he works out, that could be a great value add, but it just depends how sure are you of that.
Well, if you are, you should probably call Pat Verbeek today. He's probably in a horrible mood after last night, so he might be inclined to shake things up.
How did that score finish last night?
I don't know. It didn't even matter. They could have won 9-2, but Trevor Zegras scoring those 2 goals with that celly. Oh, I love it.
I saw that, and for those who didn't see Trevor Zegras, he scored. He did the hang up the phone celebration, which, I mean, the kids today wouldn't even get anymore because the hand phone signal that we all grew up with doesn't even make sense anymore. Kids do this now, apparently.
Yeah,
they really?
We've tested it.
Dear God.
But he did that, and he said it was how fast Anaheim hung up the phone after they called to tell him he got traded. Which
rock star shit.
I'm like, yes, and that's cold as hell. Good for you. Didn't he request the trade?
I don't remember him requesting the trade.
No?
I don't think so. Maybe.
You know what? It was they were destined for divorce, Zegras and Anaheim.
Pat Verbeek hated him from the second he got here. He's a young, flashy star with personality. That is like quite literally everything Pat Verbeek hates.
I do also think Zegras had changed, like how poorly things went in Anaheim. Like, it was a bit of a wake-up call. He changed his game a bit for...
Oh, he's been so good for Philly this year.
Which has to be annoying as hell for Ducks fans. That's another trade I wish that would have been great if Detroit had made that one. Any other names coming to mind? I know we did the Justin Falk thing, and that's another one where it's like a much cheaper version of the Rasmus Andersson one. So I wonder about that.
Vancouver's going to sell soon, so Pettersson?
Which one?
Yes.
Stamkos' name is coming up.
God, no, please no. We've been over that.
Yes, but it's funnier now. And he's not. He reached 600 goals. He's been at.
Yeah, he didn't do it all this season.
18 goals this season, though. 18 goals, 10 assists. He's having a much better season. Now, $8 million. Nashville is going to want to find a partner who will not need them to retain.
What's the AAV you're willing to take on the last 2.5 years of that deal?
Half at most.
Well,
and what's
so unless they're retaining the maximum amount, you're not making the trade?
No. How many aging Hall of Famers do we need on the power play?
All of them have worked great so far.
Fair enough.
If you do get Nashville to retain $4 million for 2.5 years, the acquisition cost of just that retained cap alone is a first-round pick.
We'll see.
The Toronto Maple Leafs gave up Seth Jarvis to unload $6 million of Patrick Marleau for 1 year.
The Toronto Maple Leafs in their decision.
I don't
for
think
the last
that's like
15
the
years,
normalized.
No, but
they're
even
not a model for
standard.
any. They're actually the model of like when you try to pick all the wrong answers on a multiple choice test. That's what they've been doing.
Well, they always just go with C.
No, they don't. They would be doing if Toronto had picked C on every question, they would have won the Stanley Cup by now. All right, we're going to get into some other NHL news now. Or at least let's talk about the world of hockey. The World Juniors end, and Team Sweden, Eddie Yenborg, take gold over Czechia, who once again dismissed Team Canada, continue to have their number, continue to embarrass the Canadians. And I frankly, the Canadians should be embarrassed with how that game went and how the tournament went. We talked about this, I think it was the Patreon exclusive. Gone are the days of old. Like the mentality and what you've seen from Team Canada, like they deserve to lose that game against Czechia.
Their mental breakdown towards the end of the game was truly a sight to behold. And you've seen teams like Czechia beat Canada in big games before, but usually it's because they got goalied. Czechia was the better team the whole game, full stop. And Canada got the result they deserved. And the thing is, too, we can't even say anything about roster construction because Canada did this year what they should have done. They brought almost all of their top skill players. They didn't leave so many good players at home to bring grit grinders for the bottom six like they did last year. So 2 different formulas, slightly better result this time. They got the bronze medal versus getting bounced in the quarters. But, you know, this Canadian team and Czechia team, I think, were very good opposites of each other and interesting to watch because Canada was that team where their grit could play with grit, but their skill couldn't play with grit. You know, skill can grit, grit can't skill. And Canada's skill didn't grit, Czechia's did. Like Czechia was all over the place. They looked suffocating. And it wasn't just their fourth line shutdown guys. It was everybody. And that is how you win championships, when you get full buy-in from a team, which Czechia had in spades. And so did Sweden, honestly. A little bit of a different style, but like everybody was pulling on the same rope. And actually, you know what's crazy thing about Czechia and Sweden? Look at all the guys that are returning next year. This very well could be a rematch next year.
Eddie Yenborg finishes with 3 goals, 5 assists, 8 points in the gold medal. That's the leading Red Wings prospect performance. Carter Bear got into 2 games for an average of, I think it was a shade over 4 minutes a game.
Hell yeah. Max
Plant, tough tournament for him. They just deployed him weird, like trying him at center. He got hurt. It was 3 games played, scored a goal. Just that was part of Team USA's undoing, was just not obviously losing him to injury, but also not using him in a way that maximized his capabilities. Prodl in net with 4 games played and .877 save percentage. Tough team to play behind, obviously. And Michael Sverchek, 5 games played, a goal and assist for 2 points as the Slovaks finish in 8th place. But all in all, Eddie Yenborg is the Yenborg. We're going to be litigating that one until we see him in
Yenborg.
Yeah, sure. Lars will tell us. Our Swedish contingent of listeners will tell us.
Just combine the two if we're unsure.
But we've talked for a few episodes now. Like that's the exciting point for Red Wings fans, just how much that guy has just been a rock star all year, ever since being drafted by the Red Wings.
And he's one of the players Sweden can return next year.
Yeah. They are talking about the next time the tournament's in the States, and I think Scott Wheeler mentioned that he expects Detroit to be one of the teams bidding for 2031, which would be sweet. That would be awesome. You think they would do a LCA, but also use the WFCU Center in Windsor?
They would have to. I don't know. They could use Ann Arbor.
Yep.
They would have to use a secondary rink. Which one they use? Plymouth, Ann Arbor, Windsor, all would be on the table.
Yeah.
That
would be a lot of fun. 2031's forever away, though. We're definitely the heat death of the universe will come by then. Other news, Winter Classic is going to be in Utah in 2027, which I actually think is pretty sweet.
That could be cool.
And Ryan Reeves bleeds, lost a fight. He got dropped for the first time.
I haven't seen heavyweights throw hands like that in a long time. That was just two guys standing in there throwing cinder blocks at each other. That was a big boy tilt.
You can see them both decide early that they don't care that they're taken to the chin.
Yeah, defense is not a thought.
That's Team Canada's World Junior strategy.
Yeah.
Just all offense, defense, very optional. Goaltending depends. I got a lot of blowback, probably deservedly, for saying goaltending was optional because Ivan Kovic made a decent amount of saves some games, but still, Team Canada hasn't had good goaltending or defense, it seems, at the World Juniors in forever. Someone called it TikTok hockey, and I was like, I hate to sound like a crusty old man yelling at a cloud, but it really did feel like TikTok hockey.
It did, but the thing is, I saw McKenna getting ripped on a lot, and obviously I can make the joke again about how he gives off the vibe that he's too cool to try, but he was effective.
Wasn't he second in tournament points as
It was the Misa line that was invisible the whole tournament. Who was on that line? It was McKenna, Hage, and Brady Martin.
Yeah.
They were awesome. Maybe not 100% of what everybody was hoping for, but they got real damn close. They were not the problem line for Canada.
Well, Hockey Canada, as it tends to do, has some questions it has to answer before next year. So nothing changed there. All right, back to Grand Rapids. Some news. Shai Buyam finally activated and assigned to Grand Rapids. And man, it feels like forever ago because it was forever ago. We're in January. He got hurt after having, a good off-season training camp, start to the preseason. Got hurt. Obviously, ruined his season. That was a guy you were looking at to maybe get some minutes with Detroit. But we'll see how he can come back, shake off the rust. Was out forever, so you have to expect that they're going to have to take it slow with him. Excited to see what he can do, but tempering expectations.
Yeah. He's a guy who thrives off hockey IQ, and you don't lose that. So it's just going to be a matter of getting up to game speed.
And Edward Tralmax with the Grand Rapids Griffins, an Olympian named to Team Latvia. So obviously those teams have fewer NHLers to pick from and obviously go back to the European leagues. And the AHL is still one of the top leagues in the world. And very cool to see a Griffins player become an Olympian. So,
did you see Gudlevskis is on Team Latvia? Every Canadian flinched when they read that roster.
That's 52 shots for a 2-1 win. Register that. For which team? I don't care. It's going to be a 2-1 game.
They're going to bring Sam Bennett in for one game.
Please. And then you just created 1,000 Gudlevskises.
Oh, now I know why Tom Wilson made the team.
Yeah, there you go. All right, we're going to take another quick break. And when we're back, the final segment on this episode of the Windwheel Podcast, back after this.
We're going to overtime.
Overtime is brought to you by our Patreon supporters, patreon.com/Windwheel Podcast. If you want to support the show, again, you get access to our post-recording bonus episodes. We let loose, we have fun, you get outtakes.
You literally already heard it today.
Oh yeah, you're going to...
Oh my God.
We have a lot to add into this one. It's been a doozy. You also get Thoughts with Evan. It's a really good time. The Patreon exclusive Discord you get access to. It's a fantastic community, and you're automatically entered to all of our giveaways, plus the opportunity to enter yourself into our giveaway. Every game we give away 2 tickets directly to our Patreon supporters to the Red Wings home game. So again, patreon.com/Winged Podcast. Let's take some questions from our patrons. Joseph Barry says, with Buyam heading back to Grand Rapids, what's going to happen roster-wise? There is a lot of jam in terms of defensemen and also other players coming in. They are probably adding Bachelnikov, maybe Bear, Genborg, etc. There's going to be a lot of players coming in, especially at defense. You look, they're pretty jammed up right now. Anything come to mind in terms of roster movement?
Only one that immediately jumps to mind is the Gustafson rumors that have been floating around for a while, where some teams might be interested in him. Other than that, it's the HL. There's a lot of turnover every offseason. So I'm not super worried about next year. That will all sort itself out in the wash. But yeah, this year, Gustafsson feels like the obvious one. Beyond that, no idea.
Hall and Gustafsson both expire after this year too. So that answers the question if they don't do that at the trade deadline. I will say, if the Red Wings do make a trade for like a depth guy, you have to start moving bodies out the other way. Like you can't then push, JBD down there kind of thing. Like it gets to be ridiculous at some point. Jack's dad says, how good of a value signing has JVR been? Do you think he gets re-signed for another year? With Kane still hovering around a point per game during his tenure with the Red Wings, will he be a one-year deal until he retires, or does he chase a cup if the Wings can't find a way into the playoffs?
If both of them are willing to stick around, there's no good reason not to keep them around.
I think it would have to be pretty bad in Detroit for Kane to want to leave. The only way I could see him doing, because the family aspect, like his kids and DeBrincat's kids growing up together, like he has roots in Detroit now. Like there's a lot here. It would have to be so bad where he's like, I'm going into what I know to be my last season, and I know the Red Wings don't have a chance. That's the only way I could see it.
Yeah, or it could be like a trade deadline move, right? Like I just can't see Patrick Kane being away from his family for 82 games.
Yeah.
I could see it for, a few months after the trade deadline, but I just don't see how that would be possible. And then on the JVR front, it might be the Red Wings' best veteran UFA signing in podcast history.
Could be. He's up there.
He's on the Mount Rushmore, that's for sure.
Evans RBF says, how many points do you think the Wings need to be up before heading into the Olympic break? There's no such thing as up in the East this year. If they are in a playoff spot, I am happy.
If they rip off a 10-game winning streak between now and then, that might gain them an extra 3 points.
Yeah. The Red Wings went on an insane record in December, and they lost ground to the Buffalo Sabres. Like there's not going to be any separation that's meaningful, and that couldn't be erased within the first 7 days of January of this calendar year. The Red Wings' gap to some teams was erased, and that all they had was 2 losses. One of them, they gained a point. They have 3 points of the possible last 6, and they lost a ton of ground. Hale Bay Jr. says, we have a lot of promising young goalie prospects. Should Stevie be trying to deal some of them, and if so, which ones? I am a big proponent of one of your best assets is either one of Kosa or Augustine, and so if you can make a big swing for a big-name player, I mean like a bona fide top 6 guy that has term, or a bona fide top 4 defenseman that you can keep for a while and be effective for a while, you use one of those guys for that. But easier said than done.
Yeah, because even as much as it would suck losing one of those guys, you still have Guimond, Gylander, and Prodl all looking promising.
A couple people asked about the third pair. Chimko Nuggets says, it has reached the point that my butt puckers every time I see the Ajo JBD third pair on the ice. I recognize landing a legit second pair left shot D is ideal, but is it crazy to think we can get a team bump from better deployments by fixing the third pair instead? Absolutely.
If it's cheap, yep, that might be the option.
And much the same way as you can sometimes find improbable guys who come in and work as a third pair defenseman, other teams do it a lot of years in free agency, you can definitely do it via trade. Detroit has dealt those guys in the past when they didn't need to be, like they weren't going to make the playoffs that year, and you're like, you'd rather have the draft pick, a third round draft pick or whatever. But if you could have like an Oli Mata type this year, 100% you do that. And I think that's a very underrated thing that the Red Wings could do for themselves. Really, like, you call it Seider, Edvinsson, Sherratt as your top 3. If you don't improve on Sherratt, that's fine. But if you improve at position 4, which would be ASP on the right side onwards, so like Justin Falk, we said, would give ASP a lot of cover. Positions 4, 5, 6 at defense. That's great for me. I'm very happy with that. Moving on here. Next question. The real K Brown says, there's been some discussion lately on ASP's size and how it will be a target in the playoffs. What do you think is a long-term solution to that? Guys build their strength. They build their foundations. It really is actually built largely in the gym, but also knowing how to take hits and the wear and tear of an NHL season.
No, defenseman, like, that's not his game. Erik Karlsson had one of the best playoff runs we've seen for a defenseman, and he didn't play a physical style. He was just so damn talented they couldn't touch him. That is not exactly what ASP is going to be, but that's going to be the model for him. If you're sitting here going, oh, he's got to be a physical presence and, learn to be something he's not, you're going to be disappointed. But if he can expand his skating, his skill set, his tools, that he can be super quick with his decisions, very elusive and dominant with the puck, then yeah, obviously he still needs to get stronger, but that's not the most important thing then. It's just a progression of what he's already good at.
I think people misconstrued what we're saying about his size and getting targeted in the playoffs. I think that's a now issue. I don't think that's an issue down the road in like years 3, 4, and beyond. Like, I think the teams would look at it and be like, there's a rookie defenseman who's undersized. We can just go after him all game and make his life a living hell. That's only a short-term problem. And I think that's what the conversation is based around, not over the length of his career.
Finny the Pooh says Larkin will be spending a lot of time with his good friend Werenski on Team USA next month. It's not tampering if it happens in international waters, right? You can do anything in international waters, it seems. And also, you can tamper anytime in the NHL, so...
Yeah, Bill Guerin's GM. I think that gives them a pass.
And then a similar note here from the Angry Ginger says, when the Olympics come around, do NHL teammates actually go full speed against each other? For example, would Seider play just as hard against Larkin or Raymond when representing his country, or would he ease up and avoid laying big hits in the interest of the Red Wings' success? No, they go all out.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only thing is, like, if you have a guy super vulnerable and there's no point in that game, you're not going to hurt him. But by and large, they
depends who you ask.
Depends who you ask. I can't remember what documentary it was. It was the Netflix one, but the
Kobe Bryant on Pau Gasol.
Yeah, it was Kobe telling his Team USA teammates, "I'm gonna run over Pau first chance I get," and LeBron was saying, like, this guy's nuts.
I think it was like first possession.
Yeah,
like literally at the start of the game,
just drives through him.
Yeah,
that's what Olympic hockey means to these guys. You're not going to see them back off at all. Look at how McDavid and McKinnon were like practically in love during Four Nations. Like international best on best, everything switches. And you're like, really? Just like that? Yeah, it does. And it switches back right after. They'll play each other the next day and try to light each other up the next day. Nicholas Squidstrom says, one name I haven't heard in trade discussion is Roman Josi. He's having a down year and has been banged up the past 2 seasons, but he's 35. He's got 2 years left after this at just over $9 million. If he stabilizes his health, he would be the absolute perfect second pair cornerstone. Or am I crazy?
That'd be great. Nashville's not giving him up.
I think Nashville would like to give him up, but I don't even know.
Barry Trotz, I honestly don't think he would.
I also don't know if Josi would. Like, he's dealing with, it's like this nervous system issue. Like, he's got a lot going on. That guy has more written all over him of he'd rather just retire in Nashville than anything else, and he has control over where he goes too.
Sounds like someone who's ripe to move to a new city.
I mean, we might have been saying the same thing about Patrick Kane too, although obviously very different situations. But yeah, I'd be surprised if Josi went anywhere. Brad's number one fan says, we saw a few trade rumors about Panarin and the Wings being on the list of teams he would go to. Would it be worth it to trade assets for him with an extension in place, or would it be better to just wait until the offseason and try to sign him? Also, do you think he'd be in the top 6?
As always, depends on the cost, depends on the dollars.
Wait, Artemi Panarin, would he be in the top 6?
Yes.
I think so.
I think Artemi Panarin would be in the top 6. The Red Wings top 6, yes. He's 34 years old and he's going to be looking to cash out. Artemi Panarin has demonstrated he's going to take the big dollar contracts. Now at 34 years old, am I giving him 7 years in free agency? Certainly no. Am I giving him 8 years if you trade for him? Even more no. I'd give Artemi Panarin a 4-year deal for some stupid money because it's not forever. The cap's going up a lot, and that's a hell of an offensive weapon to have. I know he's not the most calming players for Rangers fans. They're frustrated with him sometimes, but he's still, he's over a point per game this year. 16 goals, 30 assists. He's been over a point per game forever. Like, in a down year, he still would be one of, if not the best Red Wings performer offensively. So it's not talked about because of the age. But that would be a pretty cool solution if you could convince him to come and sign for big money 4 years.
That'd be neat.
And with the cap going up, you can do dumb things like that. Like you just go buck wild. Screw it. All right. We're going to wrap up this episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast. Thank you all so very much for tuning in. Thank you to our Patreon supporters, patreon.com/Winged Wheel Podcast. If you want to support the show and if you want to help us out, but Patreon's not for you, that's all right. Wherever you're getting this podcast, if you just hit subscribe and then leave a thumbs up, a rating, a review, a like, the heart, whatever it is, tell a friend about the show. Those are all things that also really help us a lot. To our sponsors, thank you. And to all of you who want to come out to Winged Wheel Podcast Night at the Grand Rapids Griffins, Saturday, January 17th, griffinshockey.com/WWP. Link will be in the description. The last 25 tickets with pucks are out there. And once they're gone, they're gone. Thank you all again to our name level supporters. We cannot thank you enough. Arjun Shankar, Aikfer, THL Champ, Samuel Soderholm, Glenn Brabham, Rain Dano, below average ball hockey goalie, Matthew M. Rice, Darb EQ, Sea Lion, Detroit Style, Deep Dish, Cider, Bingo Bango, Hassam Al-Qassem, Asher Killian, Kalen Wood, Alex Toger, That's What I Appreciate About You, Derek Enstam, Matt McKay, Andy Hardcore, Sam Bankson, Citizen High Five, RA, Aaron Hudson, Admiral Matt S. at the Cheesebag Navy, The El Cato, Stephen Ortlieb, Jonathan Miller, Give Blood Fight Probert, DJ Denton, Carl Brutanen Nanowski, Jay Gollum, John Ingalls, CB55, Connor Scovey, Adam Zuiza, Adam Rose, I Miss Pew Suter, Steve R, Hockeytown Matt, Mr. Kuzi, Chaotic Monkey, Craig Kibble, Iserplan, Stan, Clip Clop, Nay, Podgy713, Unapologetic, Gibson Truther, Griffin Not From Grand Rapids, Marty, Kazi the OG13, Jeff Pridemore, Eric Hill, Butts Carlton, Best James Bond, Beer League Legend, Alec, Mark Hernandez, Slim Smitty Cards, Grand Rapids Girly, Anna Sleeman, William, Mike Asher, August, Brian Munn, Improved But Flawed, Chris 99 Jones, Putting on the Moritz, Trevor Centerfit, Adams Red Wings Takes, Adam Ernie Slander, General Eddie Bohan of the Cheesebag Army, Quaz, Dylan Larkin Trade Sacrifice, Antonio Gracias, Matt Keeler, Linda Hull, Connor Leighton, Osgood Better Best, Jeremiah Dobo, Josh Yelton, Brad Simmons, Darren Fick, Bex, The Hodag, Pastor Jake, the Zaddy of Zion, Maximilian, Commander Ben Barron of the Cheesebag Space Force, Sandin-Pellikka's Pet Pelican, Griffey Boy, JM Rhapsody, Frank Stanley, Rosie Posey, That Other Guy, Pucking Puck, Carl Thames, Nerno, The Hat 123, Steven, A. Ron, Corey Prida, All Motor No Hands, Gene Sullivan, Gert Frobe, James Pridemore, Upernadian, Drop the Puck, Eric Nance, Ann Stanislavski, Jim, Bellingham Acid Balls, Wings Fan in St. Louis Scott, Lucas Raymond, Cops Gump Lip, Trent Thorough, Grepsky, Evan Beckner, Return of Jambo, C.E. Hayes, Finney to the Rafters, Jacob Marsh, Falkness, Fight Night at the Joe, Axels, Sandy Pelican, The Octopies, Ninth Leg, Finney the Pooh, and your second favorite patron. Thank you all so very much. We will talk to you again on Sunday.
Thanks for tuning in to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Be sure to visit wingedwheelpodcast.com, where you'll find links to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll also find ways to support the show, like Patreon, official podcast merchandise, and more. And don't forget to follow us on X at Winged Wheel Pod, at Ryan Hanna, WWP, at Brad Crisco, and at Hockeytown Evan, as well as Winged Wheel Podcast on Instagram.